Remember when rumors about Disney parks was an ongoing thing? One of my favorite pastimes has always been to speculate about these kind of things and do a little armchair engineering. It's been a while, but yesterday, Jim Hill gave us a few morsels, a few rumors that we're going to talk about right now. Let me actually give you those cliff notes. First, Disney may be canceling that whole we're in the sequel trilogy timeline for Galaxy's Edge. Second, Avengers Campus will be opening in the summer of 2021. Third, the IP initiative is intensifying with regard to attractions and shows at Disney parks, and that includes Zootopia coming to Animal Kingdom. Fourth, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway has been delayed till 2023. We're talking about here in Disneyland. And finally, they may be updating the Jungle Cruise to incorporate scenes and themes from the Jungle Cruise movie that still hasn't been released. We're waiting for that one. Those are the rumors, and we'll be talking about them next on Fresh Baked. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Fresh Baked. So those Jim Hill rumors, some of them are pretty interesting. Some of them are utterly obvious. We're going to talk about each, and we're going to start with the rumor that Avengers Campus is going to open in the summer of 2021, this summer. By the way, before I get into that, he also mentioned that Snow White's Enchanted Wish will also be opening in the summer of 2021. So if Jim Hill is right, then that means Disneyland is going to open in summer of 2021. I say that because they wouldn't have completed attractions, Avengers Campus and Snow White, completed, but not open them. Let's say the park opens in spring. They're not just going to sit on those attractions. They're going to open the same time Disneyland does. Well, maybe Avengers Campus, they might sit on Avengers Campus a little bit, but it's doubtful. But they certainly wouldn't sit on Snow White. So if the idea is that they're going to open those two attractions in summer, well, I mean, we've only got one conclusion left to draw from that, and that is Disneyland is going to open in summer of 2021. And that, by the way, does jive with some of the other whispers that I've heard. I was hoping for spring, but that seems pretty aggressive now that I think about it. And summer of 2021 does seem like the most reasonable expectation, all things considered, for a reopening of Disneyland. So there you go, guys. People have been asking, when's Disneyland going to reopen? We have no idea. This is the closest that we've come to getting some kind of idea, some kind of date for the reopening. And still, it's nothing confirmed by Disney. And really, it doesn't matter because this is all completely predicated on the fact that things get better here in California with respect to the numbers in the virus. So if they don't, then even summer is up for debate. Anyway, back to Avengers Campus. He mentioned also in this update that some of the interactive features for the Doctor Strange attraction at Avengers Campus will not be available to guests, and this is due to COVID. And I would say that's completely logical because they're going to eliminate as many community touch type situations as they can. So that's news for Avengers Campus because I imagine that's probably half the experience. But understand that this is probably going to be the case for any interactive experience at any place in the entire Disneyland Resort, not just Avengers Campus. They're going to, you're not going to see interactive elements anywhere for a little while. As a matter of fact, this goes beyond attractions and rides. This goes with even cast member and guest experiences as well. The exchanges that you might have there. No photo pass. You're not going to see photo pass for a while. As a matter of fact, I overheard a CM yesterday. Somebody had asked the CM if they had birthday buttons. He said, nah, no birthday buttons, and you won't see birthday buttons for a very long time, or any kind of buttons, or any kind of thing like that where the cast member is handing you a thing. That won't happen. You can't give a cast member your phone and have them take your picture. I don't know why I'm adding this here. It seemed appropriate to add it at this point, but I digress. No interactive elements at the Doctor Strange experience in Avengers Campus. Okay, let's move on to Galaxy's Edge. When Galaxy's Edge first opened, in fact, prior to that, when they were hyping it and talking about it, they were talking about Galaxy's Edge existing within the Star Wars universe. That is, Galaxy's Edge is canon. But in order to make it canon, in order to make Galaxy's Edge real with respect to the Star Wars universe, they have to stick it in a specific timeline. So they chose, naturally, the sequel trilogy because they were right in the middle of production of those three films, and they wanted to create a little synergy, which is logical. So at Galaxy's Edge right now, it exists only in the sequel trilogy timeline. But some people objected to this because that also meant you couldn't have things like Darth Vader. You couldn't meet Darth Vader because by the time the sequel trilogy came out, Darth Vader was dead, etc., etc. You get my point. So why the change in heart? Well, that's actually easy. The Mandalorian. It has been a huge success, and people want to meet the Mandalorian. They want Mandalorian in Galaxy's Edge. People are going to want to meet Din Djarin, and they're going to want to meet Grogu, and they're going to want to buy merchandise that is very likely to be exclusive to Galaxy's Edge. Not the Mandalorian merchandise you can get at World of Disney, but stuff that they make specifically for Galaxy's Edge. And it's for that reason that I have no doubt whatsoever that this is actually a real thing, that's going to happen. Maybe not right away, but eventually you will see the Mandalorian appear in Galaxy's Edge. Further, I think it's the right thing to do. I've been saying for a long time since the place opened that being married to a specific timeline was a dumb idea. As cool as it sounds, there's no reason to make Galaxy's Edge canon. There's no reason to make anything in a theme park canon. All it does is limit you. It limits your, who you can reach as a guest. It limits your creativity and your ability to, make something that people want to see. It must be remembered that Disneyland is not Star Wars. Disneyland is a thing of its own. Disneyland is for everyone, not just Star Wars fans. Look at the rest of the park. Look at the other lands in the park, and you will see that they're not constrained by the same limitations. Fantasyland with Peter Pan and Snow White and Mr. Toads, these are a variety of worlds and of eras. Nobody's arguing that Disney's version of Peter Pan and Belle can't be seen in the park together, even though they're more than 100 years apart or more. I don't even know how much that is. I don't know exactly, but clearly they're not existing in the same universe. What about Tomorrowland? So I don't even have to get into Tomorrowland, but I will say this. Recently, before the park closed, they were showing High School the musical at the Tomorrowland Theater, and I'm just gonna leave that right there and leave that as an argument for anybody who's choosing to say that Star Wars or Galaxy's Edge should remain in canon while that's happening in Tomorrowland. So when it comes to Galaxy's Edge, just give us a fun place to go that's well themed and that resonates with as many guests as possible, because again, Disneyland is not for just Star Wars fans, it's for everyone. As cool as it might seem for some of us, and myself included, I thought it was kind of a neat idea to make it canon. As cool as that sounds, it is not a great idea. So, beyond the Mandalorian showing up, what else does this mean for Galaxy's Edge? It's probably the end of Vi Marati's character, because she was a character created within the Galaxy's Edge universe. She would be a canon character. If they're eliminating canon, if they're eliminating the timeline situation, there's no need to have Vi, I don't think. It's also standard procedure for Disney to not, if they're going to bring in something new, i.e. the Mandalorian, then they have to get rid of something old. They generally don't just pile things on top of each other, adding it more and more. When something new comes in, something old goes out. So I would expect for Vi Marati to no longer be a character at Galaxy's Edge. It was also discussed in that conversation about the Mandalorian was that they might bring in the Razor Crest to replace Kylo Ren's ship, for example, in that location, which a lot of people immediately said that's crazy, if only because of the size of the Razor Crest. And it makes sense for them to scale down the Razor Crest to fit in that space. It would be comically small. I suppose one alternative might be for them to not try to present you the entire Razor Crest, but perhaps just the cockpit, just like a small view of it, and then have the rest of it be backstage, assumed, or something like that. I don't know. But it would be difficult to get the Razor Crest in there. Having said that, as much as it's okay to have, multiple timelines coexisting, it would seem weird to me to have Kylo Ren's ship there and then also the Mandalorian. But I don't know, we just get over it. Just like we would get over seeing Darth Vader, which, by the way, is almost in a reason in and of itself to open things up at at Galaxy's Edge, because I feel like people still want to meet Darth Vader. And since Launch Bay sucks and nobody goes in there, and that's the only place you can meet Darth Vader these days, and they want to end that anyway, it makes sense to open things up at Galaxy's Edge and allow them to do a Darth Vader meet and greet there. Otherwise, one other thing that they mentioned as far as Galaxy's Edge goes is that the updates for Smuggler's Run, we won't see anything there until 2024. You might remember that when they were first talking about Smuggler's Run, they were talking about 4 different adventures that you could go on, 4 different missions, as it were. To date, we still have just the one. There has only been the one mission, and it's the same one every time. There's very little variant on that. So we won't see those other 3 missions until 2024. I don't know why it would take 3 years to do that. My assumption is that it's far more complicated to do than my simple pea brain can can conceptualize. Next is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. He said that it has been delayed till 2023, and my response to that is, well duh. I thought we already knew this. I thought that was already a thing, that they were going to delay that because they were talking about spreading out construction crews off multiple sites instead of having dedicated crews for each individual construction project. So that's no news to me. 2023 is about where I thought we were anyway. Same for Jungle Cruise and those rumors that they were going to incorporate scenes or themes from the movie that has yet to be released. And again, I have to say, that's not a big surprise if it's true. I would say that though Disney hasn't confirmed, of course, that they were going to do that kind of thing, and though I think it's a terrible idea, it is exactly the kind of thing that they would do. It's exactly the kind of thing that they've done in the past. So it would not surprise me one bit for them to do that. Having said that, as I mentioned, I think it's an awful idea, and I don't want, as much as I love Dwayne Johnson in The Rock, he's a hero of mine, as much as I do love him, I don't want him anywhere near my Jungle Cruise boat. There are some things you don't mess with, and one of those is the Jungle Cruise. You can update it, bring it more modern, freshen it up or whatever, change a few things here, tweak it, sure. But you don't change Jungle Cruise. You don't bring in Dwayne Johnson to the Jungle Cruise. Please don't, Disney, please, I'm begging you. And finally, speaking of IP influence in the parks, there are rumors that the initiative to bring more IP into the parks is intensifying. By the way, I'm often asked what IP means whenever I mention that in a video. Intellectual property, and it means something that Disney has created and or owns, i.e. Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar. These are intellectual properties, and all the characters that belong to it are their intellectual properties that they own, and they can, nobody else can use them. And the idea is that they want as many of those things put into rides as possible, attractions and shows, instead of, let's say, situations like the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean or Space Mountain, where those were unique, original ideas that did not come from an intellectual property or another source, another medium, i.e. a Disney film. But again, this isn't news. Disney being infatuated with putting intellectual properties in their attractions is nothing new. This has been the way for a while now, for years at least. Heck, any new attraction, any new experience at all at a Disney park has come with an IP. So this is not news, except it is an opportunity for me to tell you how much I hate this idea, or how much that I dislike it, or that they overdo it. Now, I will preface this argument that I'm about to go on by saying that I agree that it is very difficult to create or imagine a new attraction for Disney. They cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and you don't want to make a mistake because you're stuck with it for, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. Look at Lilo and Stitch. They that thing hung around for the longest time. By the way, with an IP, so it's no guarantee. But I digress. Once you create an attraction, that's it. You're stuck with it for a while. So using IP as a safety net is a reasonable idea to mitigate those risks. But with that, it invites a sort of lazy approach to designing an attraction. Rather than creating something new, something inspired, they use the IP as a crutch. And thus they create something that is a little less inspiring. This is especially true when they try to reskin an existing attraction, which is the worst. An IP reskin is literally the basement of creativity. Trying to wedge in, film references into an existing shell, it doesn't work. It never has worked, ever. Not to mention, it's those original attractions that achieve that sort of timeless quality. You look at the most, favorite attractions in any park, and it's generally going to be those that were original. Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, Space Mountain, Big Thunder at Disneyland. Those are generally the most popular, most favorite attractions, and they are that way. They are timeless because they didn't depend on an intellectual property. At least that's my opinion. Meanwhile, attractions that are influenced by an IP are more likely to lose their appeal if the film that they're based on has lost its relevance. Imagine if they tried to make a boat ride, for example, back in the day. Where would we be then if we had that? But I'm fighting windmills here. It'll be a long time. It'll be never, probably, when Disney stops using IP as an influence for their attraction building. And I'm sure that this argument, the one that I'm making right now, has been presented to decision makers by people who are smarter than me and have more influence, and they've also been ignored. So I'm just going to go ahead and get off my soapbox here and move on or conclude this video. And as always, I would love to hear your thoughts, not just about the IP situation with attractions, because I think a lot of us are on the same page. If you've been watching this show for a while, we've had these discussions before. I think most of you are on the same page there. You just want to see, well, really, I just want a good ride. That's the bottom line. Make a good ride, and it'll probably be good. But not just about that. I want to hear your thoughts on Galaxy's Edge, and if you think that the canon idea, having the land stuck in a certain timeline, is a good idea, or would it bother you, for example, to see Darth Vader and Mandalorian in the same visit to Galaxy's Edge, or does it matter to you at all? Or actually, you know what? I want to know. Did it bother you that they had a High School the Musical showing at Tomorrowland Theater in Tomorrowland? It bothered me, but I digress. Let us know in the comments below. And until next time, guys, please be sure to be safe out there and be kind to your fellow man, the people that you encounter throughout the day. Being kind to people is a gift that we don't appreciate enough. And I would like to see something, more of us do more of that on a daily basis. Be kind to people because it feels good and you should enjoy it. With that, we love you guys. We'll see you next time. Fresh Baked.